If Friedrich Nietzsche were alive today, he wouldn't be on TikTok. He wouldn't be sipping cold brew in some Berlin cafe, writing moody poetry on a MacBook. No, he'd probably be on a street corner, shirtless, screaming about the death of God and the rising price of doner kebab. And people would still call him a genius. But in our story, Nietzsche isn't the prophet. He's just the unfortunate muse for a modern philosophy student named Jakob, who, somewhere between reading Thus Spoke Zarathustra and getting dumped via WhatsApp, decides that life is meaningless unless you're preaching to pigeons and overthrowing landlords. Welcome to the rabbit hole. Hey, and welcome to the Unfolding Journey, the channel where we take the weird, the profound, and the downright existential and mash it into stories that make you think, and maybe laugh cry into your herbal tea. If you're into tales of philosophical meltdowns, obscure thinkers, or just want to watch what happens when someone reads Nietzsche way too literally, you're in the right place. Let's dive into God is Dead. But so is my landlord. Jakob wasn't special. He studied philosophy at Humboldt University. He wore the same thrifted trench coat every day. He survived on black coffee and microwave schnitzel. But one Thursday morning in his 9 a.m. Existentialism and European Thought seminar, Jakob did something different. Something bold. He stood up in the middle of Professor Klein's lecture on Nietzsche and, with full chest, declared, "God is dead, and I'm taking his room." Silence. No one knew what that meant, including Jakob. But he stormed out like it was the climax of a Scorsese film. It should have ended there. It didn't. Jakob's roommates had had enough. He'd covered the bathroom mirror in Nietzsche quotes scrawled in toothpaste. He was hoarding moldy baguettes in the name of aesthetic nihilism. And worst of all, he renamed the Wi-Fi to Übermensch_VPN and refused to give out the password unless you passed a quiz on Beyond Good and Evil. So, they did what Berlin roommates do best. They texted their landlord. Jakob was evicted within the week. But instead of panic, Jakob felt free. He wandered the streets, journal in hand, muttering about slave morality and sipping stolen drip coffee from the local yoga studio. He considered himself post-society. The pigeons in Mauer Park became his new audience. "Fly, my feathered disciples," he'd yell. "You are the Übervogel, the Uber pigeons." No one stopped him. This was Berlin. He was just another artist in existential crisis. Everything changed when Jakob discovered an abandoned squat house in Friedrichshain. Graffiti-covered, damp, and probably haunted by the ghost of a failed DJ. Perfect. He named it Das Haus der Macht, the House of Power. Here, he would raise a new generation of thinkers, free from morality, tradition, or landlords. His first recruit, an anarchist mime named Lars. Then came Ada, a burnout art student who painted exclusively with espresso and irony. Then a guy named Pavel who claimed to be the reincarnation of Dostoevsky's dog. Unconfirmed. Their manifesto was simple. God is dead. Rent is theft. Become who you are, but like really aggressively. Jakob held nightly lectures by candlelight, quoting Nietzsche until the neighbors called the cops. The cult grew, mostly out of curiosity and the promise of free vegan curry. But as with all great movements, power corrupts. Jakob became obsessed with hierarchy, ironically, for someone who claimed to reject all systems. He declared himself the Überführer, made everyone wear sashes, and instituted a system where the person who could quote the most Nietzsche from memory got first dibs on shower time. The squat house, once a haven, turned into a chaotic philosophy-themed hostel with no working toilet and an increasing rat population who were, oddly, thriving under Nietzschean principles. The breaking point? Jakob tried to sell merch. T-shirts with God is dead on the front, and but I still need rent money on the back. His followers revolted. Ada poured espresso on his notes. Lars the mime staged a silent protest. Pavel bit him. Jakob was cast out of his own cult. And so, Jakob returned to Mauer Park. To the pigeons. To the wind. To the void. He sat on a broken bench and stared at the sky, which was gray, like most Berlin days. Had he misunderstood Nietzsche? Had he gone too far? Or not far enough? A small girl approached him, holding a torn copy of Ecce Homo she'd found in the squat house. "Are you the guy who said God is dead?" Jakob nodded solemnly. "Cool. My dad says you owe him 50 euros for stealing his bike." Jakob smiled for the first time in weeks. Maybe the will to power wasn't about domination. Maybe it was about trying, creating meaning even in the chaos, rebuilding when you've lost your Wi-Fi, your housing, and your mind. He stood up. "Let's find your dad, and maybe a decent kebab." Today, Jakob works at a philosophy-themed cafe called Café Nihilo. where every coffee is an existential crisis and nothing is decaf. He runs a podcast on overthinking. He no longer yells at pigeons, he tweets instead. The Squat House, now an Airbnb for philosophy majors. The cult? Disbanded. Mostly. But once a week, Jakob returns to that same bench in Mauer Park, still wearing that trench coat, still muttering about eternal recurrence. And if you listen closely, you might hear him whispering, "God is dead, but I'm late on rent." Again, thanks for watching this episode of The Unfolding Journey. If you enjoyed this spiral into philosophical absurdity, give us a like, drop a comment, bonus points if it's in your best Nietzsche impersonation, and share it with your most existential friend. And of course, subscribe to the channel for more weird, wonderful stories that blend the profound with the hilarious. From haunted philosophers to metaphysical meltdowns, we've got it all. Until next time, keep questioning, keep laughing, and remember, if God is dead, it's probably because he tried renting in Berlin.